Welcome to Tree of Life Spiritual Podcast, discussing the nature of God, self, enlightenment, and the spiritual path. My name is Theresa Lorraine. I am an independent scholar, a spiritual writer, a poet, and a person of faith. After experiencing a profound illumination at 12 years old, I've spent my life researching anthropology, psychology, theology, and mystic experiences, seeking to understand how this experience of higher love and interconnectedness is witnessed within all religions. Born into an atheist family and baptized Christian at 20 years old, I study meditation at my local Vedanta society, and I have never held back from learning about diverse religions or cultures. My faith is the root of my life. I see the world as my church, love as my religion, and life as my spiritual practice. The following podcast episodes can be found in the Book of the Tree of Life, released in February 2025 and available as a free download on Amazon, bn.com, Google Play, Kobo Books, Apple Books, and more. Please see the episode description for a link to the book. Feel free to download a free copy if you want to read along. The roots to the Tree of Life. Imagine all of the religions of the world as roots to a great tree of life, spreading high up into the cosmos, its canopy sheltering the world and all that it contains. The Tree of Life is a symbolic representation of the one, the only truth, the way, and the life. These roots converge at a singular trunk, which is the experience classically known as enlightenment or divine revelation. As previously stated, this author's bold assertion is that special revelation is not meant only for a chosen few, it is for every child of God who opens themselves to it. This transcendent experience might come upon us suddenly, like a lightning strike, by surrendering ourselves over to the divine, or it might happen gradually, through immense discipline, like a slow wave building toward a peak. However it comes to us, this experience of unification with God or merging with the divine consciousness is at the heart of all religious tradition. This experience is where the roots meet the trunk of the tree, where the holy traditions merge together as one great unified whole. Now imagine your journey, the journey of a soul. In blindness, we begin at one of the roots. There are many to choose from. We can choose from Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism, even atheism. At this stage, our beliefs are not as important as our practice, because any concept of God we study can only be known in part until we receive that divine union. It is through practice of virtue that we purify the heart and deepen our understanding until that moment of grace when we enter into the presence of the divine. We receive resurrection, a new spiritual body and a new sense of self, shifted away from our individual self-concept and toward our new divine awareness. We receive, as they say, salvation, the knowledge of God within. This salvation or enlightenment or liberation, etc., does not come without its own burdens and responsibilities. It must be responded to by works. As Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita, we have a sacred duty to uphold, and as Paul assures us in the Bible, these holy works have been planned ahead of time and set aside for us to do. And God will help you in this work, which is toward the liberation or salvation of souls, helping others find the truth within themselves that together we might ease the world's suffering and preserve this knowledge of our divine nature for the benefit of future generations and indeed all of life. This path is not unique to Christianity. It has been laid out over and over again through every major religion in the world and witnessed by some indigenous beliefs as well. It is universal because it is within us, as testified by the unconscious symbolism of the sacred tree. This journey of the soul is very much alive in the modern world, especially within the mystic traditions of world religions. Without it, the practice of religion becomes stale and unfulfilling for many people. It is my observation that mankind wants to know him or herself in this way. But this kind of spiritual practice is counterintuitive to mainstream society, and so many people fall between the cracks, losing themselves before even knowing themselves. The following commentaries will focus mostly on mystical practice within world religions, as this is where the experience of divine revelation and unification with God or enlightenment has been well documented. It is by comparing these experiences across cultures that I hope to bridge certain gaps in our comprehension of sacred experience and the nature of God. which is universally the same. I also hope to build a framework for a comprehensive, cross-cultural understanding of faith using the Tree of Life. Let us attempt to separate the historical or cultural context of religion from our personal spiritual practice and journey to the divine. History and culture certainly have their place in the grand story of humanity, but this is a book about our shared inner journey. Let us explore the roots of the Tree of Life. Episode 2: The Practice of Jewish Kabbalah. Let us open with a quote from Daniel 12:3. They who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the firmament, and they who turn many to righteousness shall shine like the stars forever and ever. The first root to the Tree of Life I would like to discuss on this podcast is Kabbalah, the mystical teachings of Judaism. Remember that the purpose of this commentary is to break open the often obscure and esoteric knowledge contained within different religious traditions to show their underlying harmony by following our 3 points of intersection: the nature of God, the nature of enlightenment, and the symbol of the Tree of Life. Through exploring these 3 points of intersection, we can illustrate the harmony inherent within different world belief systems. Hopefully, this will pave the road to a broader understanding of divine revelation, greater tolerance for each other, and a new perspective of faith. Like any world religion, Judaism has many different branches, some more orthodox while others are more liberal. The purpose of this commentary is not to split hairs between the many different schools of thought present within Judaism, but to explore Judaism in the context of the Tree of Life, which leads us most famously to Kabbalah practice. The Tree of Life is present in Kabbalah as a vast teaching system that includes the emanations of God. Its purpose is to help the spiritual student on their road to enlightenment or union with the Holy Spirit. Section 1. What is Kabbalah? Kabbalah philosophy is paired with rabbinic texts and the Torah to achieve a deeper understanding of God's message to his chosen people. First introduced by 2nd century Talmudic master Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who wrote the Zohar, Kabbalah practice was later carried forward by the Spanish mystic Moshe de Leon, who wrote the majority of its theory and commentaries in the 13th century. Mystic tradition relies heavily on experiences such as visions, inspired knowledge, or revelations, sometimes called gnosis, to intuit meanings from holy texts. This means that the knowledge within Kabbalah might cross over into some orthodox branches of Judaism, but the two cannot be considered identical, and some conservative thinkers might even hold Kabbalah practice as heresy or even its own separate religion. But this podcast is not a discussion of orthodoxy versus heresy in religious practice. It is a discussion of mystic experience, man's divine nature, and the harmony of world religions. Let us proceed with a plucky sort of sophomoric enthusiasm. So, following in the footsteps of these ancient mystics, I begin with Kabbalah, the mystic practice of Judaism, because of a vision I received on May 10, 2022 during the compiling of this book. Resting my head against a pillow, I closed my eyes, and I saw a flash of the same Tree of Life that I saw in meditation in 2015. I saw a soul being drawn up through one of the roots of the tree into its trunk, where it would continue its journey upward into God. The soul looked like a ball of glowing white light. Around the light, glinting with rainbow colors, was something like a soap bubble. I think this was the aura surrounding the soul. I knew that this particular root, which had drawn up the soul from the ground earth, was Judaism. The root carried the soul upward like water into the Tree of Life, into God. This experience and other spiritual encounters are contained in my memoir, entitled Spiritual by Theresa Lorraine, a personal autobiography published in 2022. You may have gleaned by now that I am not just an independent scholar and researcher, but also a spiritual person of faith, relying not only on study, but on practical experience as well to inform the writing of this book. I invite you to do the same if you ever wish to take on this sort of project. It begs the question, can a scholarly work be both research and witness-based? To hold any sort of authority in the realm of theology, I believe it must be What is discussion of revelation without revelation itself? There is little room for speculation in theology. We must stick to what is specially revealed to us, or revealed to the ones we hold to account. It is my wholehearted belief that if a work is ordained and necessary, then God shall help us with every part of the task. Section 2 on the nature of God in Jewish Kabbalah. If you haven't been listening from episode 1 in this podcast, you might want to start at the beginning so you know what this podcast is all about, and you can better follow the discussion to come. As a reminder, our first point of intersection is the nature of God, which we broadly define as non-dual. All of creation exists inside of the divine as one. Likewise, the divine is one with his creation. We dwell inside of the divine, and the divine dwells inside of us, and on the most authentic, deepest level of our being, we are that. We can call this comprehension non-dualism. So in short, God is immanent. His presence is here with us. We are inside of God, and God is inside of us. And we will see how this same knowledge is carried through many other world traditions, connecting all of the roots to the tree of life. For the purpose of this commentary and discussion, the following passages are quoted from the Essential Kabbalah, translated by Daniel C. Matt. I thank him in advance for his incredible work and scholarship, bringing Kabbalah into the mainstream. If you want to learn more about Kabbalah practice, please check out Daniel C. Matt's work on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other book retailers. Now let's consider the following quote on the nature of God from an ancient Kabbalah master. The essence of divinity is found in every single thing, nothing but it exists. Since it causes everything to be, no thing can live by anything else. It enlivens them. Its existence exists in each existent. Do not attribute duality to God. Let God be solely God. 1. Do not say, this is a stone and not God. God forbid. Rather, all existence is God, and the stone is a thing pervaded by divinity. God is present in everything, and everything comes into being from it. Nothing is devoid of divinity. Everything is within it. It is within everything, and outside of everything. There is nothing but it. When you contemplate the Creator, realize that his encampment extends beyond, infinitely beyond, and so too in front of you and behind you, east and west, north and south, above and below, infinitely everywhere. Be aware that God fashioned everything and is within everything. There is nothing else. Continuing with our discussion, here we have a very clear, precise, detailed description of the nature of God as found in the writings of Kabbalah philosophy. The essence of divinity is found in every single thing. God enlivens everything. Do not attribute duality to God. Let God be one. But the essence of divinity can be a bit confusing. We don't immediately understand what that means or how it relates to a person. But if we consider that the essence of divinity is found in every single thing, that means it is inside of you too. And it is knowable. Section 3. The name of God. This essence of divinity is revealed by God's name, I am. This was the sacred name revealed to Moses in the burning bush, I am, or he that is. This name is significant, as it not only hints at the absolute nature of the divine I am without qualifying traits or determinants, but also intimates an experience of revelation hidden within the name itself. I am is a vast and resonant sound that echoes throughout our whole body, and I would imagine, when heard by Moses, this name resonated throughout not just himself, but all the cosmos. We are not talking about the personal I am, but a much bigger I am that can also be understood as absolute being. In a broad sense, this greater I am is indicative of God's presence as pure consciousness. And so, with that in mind, and to further illustrate this point, let's reword the original passage. Consciousness is found in every single thing, nothing but it exists. Since it causes everything to be, no thing can live by anything else. Consciousness enlivens every being. Its existence exists in each existent. Let us try rewriting this passage another way, using the name of Yahweh, I am, instead of a vague, slippery notion like consciousness. I am is found in every single thing. Nothing but I am exists. Since I am causes everything to be, no thing can live by anything else. I am enlivens every being. Its existence exists in each existent. Continuing our discussion, it is a common understanding in Abrahamic religions that God is closer to us than our own life breath, or being, which we can also call God's immanence. If we consider the implications of the above passage, I am, enlivens every being, its existence exists in each existent, then that makes God very close to us indeed. Every time we say I am, we are touching upon the root of divinity within us, but we rarely turn ourselves inward and really dwell upon that miraculous I am, don't we? We take our own existence for granted. But this is the baseline of existence that we must reach to comprehend if we want to truly understand ourselves and our source. The root of our being goes very deep. For the sake of higher understanding, let us rewrite the following passage, replacing the term creator with I am. When you contemplate I am, realize consciousness extends beyond, infinitely beyond, and so too, in front of you and behind you, east and west, north and south, above and below, infinitely everywhere. Be aware that I am fashioned everything and is within everything. There is nothing else. So this small, everyday I am of our person has a far greater nature than simply belonging to the flesh. It is much more profound than we realize. For thousands of years, the great spiritual masters have been teaching us the nature of consciousness all along, using the cultural narrative of their times. And by studying these ancient spiritual practices, we can learn the true nature of consciousness and perhaps reassert the holiness of consciousness. To understand spiritual revelation is to understand ourselves truly and fully on the deepest level. Section 4. Enlightenment in Jewish Kabbalah. We now move on from the nature of God to the second point of intersection in our commentary, the nature of enlightenment. Here is a reminder of the thesis outlined in our introduction. Enlightenment, liberation, salvation, etc. is receiving divine revelation through an experience of unification with God, higher consciousness, or becoming one in the tree of life. Only in this unitive state can we know God's presence in the world and comprehend divine consciousness. This experience and revelation lends itself to the writing and/or renewal of doctrine and ultimately defines the spiritual path of mankind. The spiritual path itself is very similar across religions, renouncing personal desire or self-will and purifying the heart. The goal of spiritual practice in Kabbalah is to attain the highest experience of spirituality, which is unification with the Holy Spirit, to merge with God's consciousness and perceive the world through spirit alone. And this is where each individual root meets at the trunk of the transcendent tree of life. Please consider this quote from the Essential Kabbalah, translated by Daniel C. Matt. In the flow of the Holy Spirit, one feels the divine life force coursing the pathways of existence, through all desires, all worlds, all thoughts, all nations, all creatures. The above quote from the Essential Kabbalah by Daniel C. Matt describes the highest and deepest state of prayer or meditation when we become unified with the greater spirit of God. In the metaphor of the tree of life, this experience of union with God or merging with the ocean of pure consciousness is where the root reaches the tree, where souls merge with the one and ascend upward into higher states of being, returning to the original source. All of the religious traditions included in this book present a path to attaining this enlightenment or salvation. All of these paths carry similar traits, which we will explore in the following commentaries. The common thread in all of them is the idea of purification of the heart toward attaining a state of unity. We will see how this universal spiritual path has been expressed in various ways, across culture, time, and tradition. The following is a short overview of the spiritual path of Kabbalah. I will touch upon a few key concepts of Kabbalah practice to illuminate the internal, personal transformation that we call the journey of the soul. For the sake of higher understanding, let's rewrite the previous quote in this way. In the flow of the universal I am, one feels pure consciousness coursing the pathways of existence, through all desires, all worlds, all thoughts, all nations, all creatures. Once we understand that the Holy Spirit and pure consciousness are simply different words for the same truth, which is the reality, we understand better this intense experience of interconnectedness. Living in oneness, in the flow of the Holy Spirit, defines the experience of enlightenment, nirvana, attaining the Tao, etc. We can imagine it's like plunging into water. Everything is connected, the internal and the external. The great I Am is known and seen within every living creature, even inanimate objects like rocks, buildings, trees, the sky. There is no separation anymore. All of existence becomes one entity, and you are that. Therefore, what you do to another person, you really do to both God and to your own self. And from this realization stems all knowledge, all wisdom, all truth, all practice. This is the basis of spiritual law. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, because we are one in the tree of life. And this is the nature of divine love. Section 5, Divine Love, or Chesed. And I apologize for my poor pronunciation. In Kabbalah, divine love is represented by the concept of Chesed, which has been translated into loving kindness, unconditional love, or compassion. It is often understood as the very essence of the Creator, a divine attribute or emanation of I Am. This divine love is seen as the driving force behind creation. The term divine differentiates this sort of holy love from our average concept of romantic or sexual love. God is not romantic love. God is divine love. This means it is unconditional, shining like the sun equally upon all people, good and bad, righteous and unrighteous. This is because biological love, experienced within the range of everyday human emotions, exists on a spectrum. The opposite of emotional love is any number of things: hatred, anger, grief, fear, etc. However, God's divine love is the purity of the spirit. Divine love is of a much different quality than emotional love. Divine love is the power of unity to which all the cosmos dances and plays. It is the root of life itself and the cause of harmony and order. Divine love is what renews, heals, and resurrects us in the image of the Spirit, and from then on, we dwell within heaven. It is a place beyond duality. There is no opposite of divine love. It encapsulates all, preserves all, sustains all. It is utterly impartial, without judgment, without pettiness or desire. It is generative, like an endless sun, and all that decays returns to it. Through the eyes of divine love, all of creation is equal. In fact, all of creation is itself. And this love is the highest joy, knowledge, and purity of the Spirit. And so, from this realization of divine love, we become empty of all worldly desires. God's wholeness negates everything. Reality itself changes. Material things that used to give us pleasure in everyday life seem uninteresting, fleeting, and meaningless. We desire very little beyond service to God. Simpler, less significant things take on new meaning. It becomes immensely fulfilling to sit outside and stare at the grass, completely absorbed in the play of light through the trees, gazing upon the profundity and beauty of God. It is remarkable and awe-inspiring to see God's Spirit contained in every blade of grass, in every wildflower, in every humming insect, in every bird, all the way up to the endless sky. It is not seen through the physical eyes, but through the heart, which is home to that transcendent and holy I Am. This illumination makes all things beautiful, and God's presence brings immense peace and joy to the whole body. We develop a profound love and acceptance of all things. Which brings us to the Kabbalic concept of ayin, nothingness. Section 6, the concept of ayin, or nothingness. Consider the following quote from the Essential Kabbalah, translated by Daniel C. Matt. Think of yourself as ayin, nothingness, and forget yourself totally. Then you can transcend time, rising to the world of thought, where all is equal, life and death, ocean and dry land. Such is not the case if you are attached to the material nature of this world. If you think of yourself as something, then God cannot clothe himself in you, for God is infinite. No vessel can contain God unless you think of yourself as ayin, or nothing. Then you come to the state of ayin, nothingness, the state of humility. You have no independent self and are contained in the Creator. This is the meaning of the verse, Moses hid his face in awe. Through his experience of awe, Moses attained the hiding of his face. That is, he perceived no independent self. Everything was part of divinity. Continuing our discussion, on our journey to enlightenment or unification with God, Kabbalah teaches us about the concept of ayin, or nothingness. A similar idea to ayin can be found in spiritual practices from around the world. In Eastern religions, it can be compared to detachment. This is renouncing our personal desires or self-will. Ayin encourages us to forget ourselves totally, and it seems we cannot do this if we are attached to the material nature of this world. We must seek to free ourselves from personal desires and attachments. Our identity becomes rooted in God. Our understanding of the I am changes. Our desires are directed toward God's will alone, for we are that. Consider this excerpt from the Mundaka Upanishad in comparison to the paragraph above. The wise have attained the unitive state and see only the resplendent Lord of love. Desiring nothing in the physical world, they have become one with the Lord of love. Those who dwell on and long for sense pleasure are born in a world of separateness, but let them realize they are the self and all separateness will fall away. Again, this excerpt is from the Mundaka Upanishad, a holy text of Hinduism. Although worded differently and from a different culture and time period, the Mundaka Upanishad also contains the secret of ayin, nothingness. Desiring nothing in the physical world, they have become one with the Lord of love. The unitive state in Hinduism, and allowing God to clothe himself in you in Kabbalah, is achieved by the same means, complete detachment from the material world. To forget yourself totally can also be understood to mean I desire nothing of the physical world. Forgetting oneself means forgetting our personal desires such as greed, lust, fame, or personal glory. We should only desire to know God. So, in a way, ayin is death. It is a true hollowing out and discarding of all that is material about ourselves to embrace the true essence of God within. In Eastern religions, this can be compared to ego death. We give up our little I am in search of the big I am. Only after knowing God can we truly know ourselves, can we truly know what it means to be alive. And the joy, the love, the bliss, the truth of knowing God within, of allowing him to clothe himself in you, is worth the sacrifice 1,000-fold. Section 7. Channeling the Divine Attributes. Now let's consider our next quote from the Essential Kabbalah. The essence of serving God and of all the mitzvot is to attain the state of humility. That is, to understand that all of your physical and mental powers in your essential being depend on the divine elements within. You are simply a channel for the divine attributes. You attain this humility through the awe of God's vastness, through realizing there is no place empty of it. The state of humility is spoken about in all religious practice. In Christianity, we know that humility is a virtue, and it's closely tied to the act of service. All of our trials in life are toward the purpose of bringing us to a state of humility, that we might surrender the smaller I am for the bigger I am. In Kabbalah, we practice humility by reminding ourselves of God's vastness, his greatness or awesomeness. We should always remember it is his invisible presence that makes all of nature and the cosmos dance to a great unity. By practicing humility, we are able to channel God's divine attributes. We see ourselves as a vessel for the divine or the Holy Spirit. God's divine attributes are discussed throughout Kabbalah practice as the 10 Sephirot. In Kabbalist metaphysics, God created 10 Sephirot, or emanations of divine energy, that can be thought of as attributes of God's spirit or pure consciousness. In Kabbalah, these Sephirot function as channels or manifestations of different attributes of God in the material world. The Sephirot are organized on a famous map called the Tree of Life that describes the spectrum of God's attributes observable within His creation. As we are children of God, we have the ability to nurture these divine attributes within ourselves as well, so we might become like Him and eventually know God's Spirit within us. Understanding the 10 Sephirot provides a path to guide the soul into the presence of God. Many books have been written on the Sephirot, so I will not include a detailed account of each one. The following is a brief list. The 10 Sephirot exist within God and make up the unity and continuity that is God, and are mapped in the Kabbalist tree. The crown, wisdom, understanding, divine love, strength, beauty, victory, obedience, foundation, and kingdom or revelation. This sort of tree of life is not unique to Kabbalah, and several mystic traditions organize God's attributes in different ways. The mystic paths of Ifa and Sufism have similar maps like the tree of life in Kabbalah. It is good to remember that all of the attributes are one. So although we might discuss God's various emanations as knowledge, divine love, beauty, purity, strength, etc., we should remember that all of these are one power, one presence, and one divinity. Section 8. Holiness, Unity, and Purification of the Heart. The following is another quote from the Essential Kabbalah. Holiness is twofold. It begins as service to God, but it ends as a benefit. At first it is effort, then a gift. In other words, if you strive to be holy, you are eventually endowed with holiness. The effort consists in separating and removing yourself from the material aspect of things and linking yourself to the divine. Even when dealing with your body and its needs, your soul should not stir from her union. Continuing with our commentary, here we see a reference to the process of purifying the heart. If you strive to be holy, you are eventually endowed with holiness. The effort consists in separating and removing yourself from the material aspect of things and linking yourself to the divine. By separating and removing ourselves from the material aspects of things and linking to the divine, we are on the path to purification of the heart. This is what it means to be endowed with holiness. It means to become pure-hearted. As we gain humility by emptying ourselves of the self-will to attain that state of ayin or emptiness, we are also purifying the heart by the practice of virtue, compassion, and detachment. As we strive for holiness in all of our actions, eventually we are endowed with holiness. We become what we direct our will towards. So let us always direct our will towards God's will. Section 9. A gift of grace. From the Essential Kabbalah. But it is impossible to attain this state on your own. After all, you are physical, flesh and blood. So ultimately, holiness is a gift. What you can do is strive to pursue true knowledge. Be persistent in learning how to sanctify what you do. In the end, the Blessed Holy One will guide you on the path that it wishes and impart holiness to you so that you become holy. Then you will succeed, attaining union continuously. Even your bodily actions are transformed into holy deeds. You are walking in the presence of God while being right here in the world. You become a dwelling place of the divine. This is a beautiful quote that gives us a lot to think about. Ultimately, according to both the Kabbalah and the Upanishads, this final realization and union with God is a gift. God gifts you with this awareness of divine love by His grace, by His will. Then we are fully purified in the Holy Spirit, and we attain new knowledge and new life. It is by sacrificing our smaller will that we become one with His will. Then we no longer exist in part, but become whole. This same sentiment of a gift is echoed in the Mundaka Upanishad. The self cannot be known through study of the scriptures, nor through the intellect, nor through hearing discourses about it. The self can be attained only by those whom the self chooses. Verily unto them does the self reveal himself. Considering the teachings of both Kabbalist masters and Hindu saints, this enlightenment is a gift. Some work is required to prepare ourselves to receive the gift, but ultimately we do not control when it comes upon us. Similar to a blind man climbing a mountain, we cannot know we've reached the top of that mountain until we find ourselves with nowhere left to climb. And so we must continue toward our goal and destination with unwavering willpower, trusting in the higher light to guide us, for it knows its own ways better than we know ourselves. We cannot truly know why, but I trust this enlightenment will come to every seeking soul in His timing. Section 10 on the Tree of Life, the Cosmic Tree. Quoted from the Essential Kabbalah. I am the one who planted this tree for all the world to delight in. With it I spanned the all, calling it all. For all depends on it, all emanates from it, all need it, all gaze upon it and await it. From here, souls fly forth in joy. Alone I was when I made it, when I spread out my earth in which I planted and rooted this tree, giving them joy in one another, rejoicing along with them. Who was with me? To whom could I reveal this secret of mine? The symbol of a sacred tree is an archetype found within all spiritual traditions. Interestingly, it often appears as a teaching tool and a metaphor for the body of God and the hidden nature of the cosmos. Consider the following description of the tree of life. With it I span the all, calling it all, for all depends on it, all emanates from it, all need it, all gaze upon it and await it. From here souls fly forth in joy. It would seem that from this quote, we should understand the tree of life is a metaphorical symbol for God Himself. This tree grows into eternity and stems from eternity. It contains the physical and material realities as its roots, moss, and leaves, but the water from which it thrives and grows is spirit. Spirit embodies it, spirit emanates throughout, spirit enlivens and sustains it. And what is spirit? Spirit is God, and God is consciousness. The entire tree is consciousness. The entire material world is truly held within God's consciousness. Now let us consider the journey of the soul. We begin in darkness under the illusion of separation, existing in part, feeling that we are separate from God. The spiritual journey is not a physical one, but an internal journey, a change of perspective as we come to know ourselves as one with the divine tree. In the roots of the tree of life, we see souls flowing up from the earth into the tree, into heaven, in a stream of spiritual growth and transcendence, where life energy is purified in divine love. As we grow up through the tree, we become whole. Our awareness of ourselves as spiritual beings grows and crystallizes. The darkness is cleared from our eyes. Our consciousness expands until we reach the trunk of the tree, that state of union, after which we know the heart to be one with God. We become one with all life, all hearts, all knowledge, uniting with all of those who have come before, and all of those who will come after. Beyond the branches at the crown of the tree, we see heavenly light transcending the material world into the realm of the absolute. Pure existence. Immortality. The Godhead. The journey of the soul is God's journey with us. It begins in the body under the illusion of separateness. Through the sacred paths laid by centuries of spiritual teachings, the tree of life draws each individual soul up through the roots, into the tree itself, where souls are united with the pure stream of God's totality. All souls are united as one in the tree of life. The tree of life is God, spanning all, for all emanates from it, all need it, all gaze upon it and await it. And this concludes our discussion of the mystic path of Kabbalah. My name is Theresa Lorraine, and I am a spiritual writer, independent scholar, a mystic and poet. Feel free to post questions in the comments on this episode. I am happy to discuss concepts and would love to hear from you. Next, we will discuss the mystic path found in Hinduism, referencing the Upanishads, the Gita, and the Gospel of the Enlightened Guru, Sri Ramakrishna. Like and subscribe for more content. Don't forget, the little things mean a lot. And maybe you are the next Buddha.